Okay, what we're going to talk about on this one is when the actual arm is coming into the solenoid too hard, so effectively it's going over centre too early. So we'll come to the rear of the machine, we'll arm her up, and this time it's been set up for the purpose of the exercise, so we'll arm load her up and you'll hear quite a large bang as it comes into cock. Okay, so that's far too hard, so we know that something is not set correctly. So we'll fire her off, we'll let that come round again. Okay, what's happened here now is the machine is coming over centre far too early. Where we talked about on the last piece, we talked about it coming over an inch before the trigger. What's happening here, it sounds like it's coming over about 3 inches before it comes over onto the solenoid. So what's happening as it's coming over, it's coming round and then it's going far too, the machine's firing too early and it's only the trigger that's holding it. Two things that can happen here, it'll now the fire straight through, so if the machine starts cycling, because it's coming over centre too hard, it's basically firing straight through the solenoid. Or the other thing it could potentially be is it's going to actually, everything's going to jam up. So what we'll do now, we'll show you how to retime it all. So we'll fire her off. Okay. Where we talked about before, it was going over centre too late. What's happening now, it's going over centre too early. So we need to move the arm now in. Before we were moving it out. So what we're looking for to do is to get the machine to start coming over centre later, because it's coming over centre too early at the moment. So we'll move the arm in. It's all trial and error, just take your time when you do this. If you go too much, it's not a problem, you can always bring it back out. But just a couple of mil on the arm every time you do it. Okay. So again, he's still not quite right. What we'll do now, we'll pull the roller switch out so we can work out how far we are before the arm stops. So remember, the roller switch cuts the power, so the arm will stop where you set your roller switch. Move her in, ever so slightly. Again, rear of the machine. Okay, now we've pulled the roller switch out, the arm has stopped further out. So what we'll do now, we'll just push her in nice and steady. Okay, now we're looking to remember the inch, we want it going over centre an inch before the trigger. So push that there. It's just a bit too much, that one. Fire her off. Push her under. Again, we're looking for an inch before the trigger. Perfect. So now we've actually got that to where we want it. So we know we're going over centre an inch before the trigger, and now we'll take the roller switch in. And that then creates the gap that we're looking for on the main shaft and the drive bolt on the crank. Okay, not quite enough. Disarm it. Move the roller switch in a touch more. Perfect. One thing to remember, if it's coming over centre too early and it's coming clattering into the trigger, you'd move the arm in. If it's going over centre too late, so effectively it's like a sporting machine, you would always move the arm out. The roller switch will where you set your roller switch, that's where it will always stop the arm. If you pull the roller switch right the way out, the arm will stop later. If you take the roller switch all the way in, the arm will stop inside the machine a lot later. So it's always the case of moving the roller switch to suit where the arms want to stop. You want to stop the arm an inch before it goes onto the trigger. If the roller switch is too far out, it won't come onto centre. If the roller switch is too far in, it'll still come over centre, but you will lose your gap at the front of the machine. You must always have a gap at the front of the machine, because as we spoke about, if you haven't got your gap, as the motor starts and the solenoid hasn't released, that's when you'll get a jam up and everything will lock up onto the solenoid. There is a fail-safe bar inside there to prevent jams, But if you can set your roller switch and set your arm timing correctly, there'll be no need for the fail-safe to come into play because everything will work in sync with each other.